The hum of the engines filled the cabin like a low lullaby, blending with the faint murmurs of passengers settling in for the long flight across the Atlantic. Row 10. Seat A belonged to a young woman slouched against the window, her jacket pulled tightly around her shoulders, her cap tilted just low enough to cover her eyes. To everyone else, she was just another exhausted traveler, another nameless passenger fading into the rhythm of the night flight. But beneath that quiet facade, her story ran deeper than anyone on that plane could imagine. Her name was Lieutenant Commander Sarah Lawson, a decorated Navy pilot. Though you'd never know it from the way she hid herself in plain sight. Sarah wasn't traveling as an officer that night. She was simply a woman trying to escape the noise of the world, the expectations, and the ghosts that trailed her from the battlefield. She had lost too much in too little time, fellow pilots she'd sworn to protect. A best friend whose laughter she could still hear, and a piece of herself every time she returned from a mission alive while others did not. The seat belt light flickered on, signaling turbulence ahead. The plane shuddered slightly, and Sarah stirred in her sleep, her hand instinctively gripping the armrest with the reflex of someone trained never to lose control. She exhaled deeply, her mind flashing back to another cockpit. Another night, where turbulence wasn't weather, but a volley of missiles tearing through the sky. The cabin lights dimmed, and the passengers around her quieted. Mothers hushed children, businessmen adjusted their laptops, couples whispered in the dark. Row 10 remained still, Sarah half asleep, her breath even but restless, her dreams clouded with memories she wished she could escape. And then, suddenly, it happened. The captain's voice, usually calm and rehearsed, crackled with urgency over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We have an unexpected medical emergency on board. If there is any doctor or medical professional among you, please make yourself known immediately." The passengers stirred, whispering, their eyes darting around the cabin. A man 2 rows back raised his hand. A doctor. But his expression told everyone he wasn't confident he could handle this one alone. The flight attendants rushed toward the middle of the cabin, where an elderly passenger was slumped in his seat, unresponsive. Panic rippled through the rows. But before anyone could process the scene, the curtain at the front parted, and a man stepped out. A tall figure in full Navy uniform, his medals gleaming faintly under the cabin lights. His presence drew silence like gravity itself. He was Admiral James Whittaker, a legend among those who knew the skies and the sea. His stern eyes swept across the cabin, measuring, calculating, but his voice carried not fear, only command. "Is there a Top Gun pilot on board?" he asked firmly, his voice resonating through the stunned silence. "We need one. Now." The words hung in the air, shocking, confusing. Passengers exchanged baffled looks. A Top Gun pilot? On a commercial flight? Why would that matter in a medical emergency? The doctor looked up, confused but deferential. Flight attendants froze, caught between following orders and not understanding them. Row 10 remained still. Sarah's eyes shot open, her heart hammering in her chest. Her pulse quickened as if the Admiral's voice had reached into her soul and pulled her back into a world she had been trying desperately to leave behind. Her fingers trembled against the armrest. She could hear her instructor's voice in her memory. "When the call comes, Lawson, you don't hesitate. You rise." But she did hesitate. Her breath caught in her throat. She hadn't told anyone on board who she was. She hadn't wanted to. For months she'd hidden, retreating from the uniform that once gave her pride, but now felt like a weight too heavy to carry. She was tired. Tired of the headlines, tired of the funerals, tired of waking up each morning feeling guilty for surviving. The Admiral's voice came again, stronger this time. "We need a pilot trained for crisis. Is there a Top Gun pilot here?" The passengers shifted, whispers growing louder. Some laughed nervously, thinking it a mistake or a strange kind of protocol. But others felt the seriousness in his tone. The elderly passenger's condition was worsening. Oxygen masks were brought out, and still the Admiral's eyes scanned the cabin like a lighthouse cutting through fog. And then, reluctantly, row 10 stirred. Sarah pushed back her cap, the light catching her face, and for the first time the passengers saw her eyes, clear, sharp, unyielding. She rose slowly, her movement steady, deliberate, like someone stepping back into a destiny they had sworn to avoid. The Admiral's gaze locked onto her instantly, recognition flashing across his stern features. "Lawson," he said softly, almost like a prayer of relief. "I knew it." Gasps rippled through the rows. Passengers leaned in, whispering. The doctor stepped aside, uncertain but respectful. Sarah swallowed hard, her throat tight, but she forced herself forward, past the rows of startled faces, toward the Admiral and the crisis awaiting her. Her heart pounded as if it would break through her chest. She had wanted anonymity, to disappear into the ordinary. But in that moment she knew this was who she was. Not just a passenger in row 10. Not just a woman running from her pain. She was a pilot, a leader. Someone who had been trained to rise in the darkest hour, no matter how broken she felt inside. As she knelt beside the unconscious passenger, her hands steady, her voice calm, she felt something shift deep within her. For the first time in months, she wasn't drowning in her past. She was using it. The years of discipline, the instinct for crisis, the ability to breathe when others panicked, it all came back, not as a burden but as a gift. And the Admiral, watching her, knew this wasn't just about saving one life on a flight. This was about saving hers too. Sarah Lawson, asleep in row 10 only minutes before, was awake again. Truly awake, and the world would never be the same.